Introduction now. Welcome, guys, to another edition of Crypto World Radio. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I'm here today joined by special guest Shadow. He's been on the show once before, late last year, and a good personal friend of mine. Been talking to him over the phone for a while now, and he's an individual with some great insights in the digital asset space. Predominantly, his expertise goes into the GameFi and metaverse sector, and it's something that him and his broader network, Tier 7, is specializing in. Things like Compete, Katana Inu, WASDR, things of that nature. And we're just here to talk some general shop and see what he's been up to. So, Shadow, without further ado, welcome to another one of my spaces. It's a pleasure to be here with you, man. Thank you for taking the time out of your Monday to come talk shop with me, man. How are you doing today?
Yeah, all good. Yeah, everything is good. Thank you for having me again. I thoroughly enjoyed last time that we talked, and thank you. I don't know how many people we've got in here so far, but hello to all the listeners, and obviously thank you for coming in and spending your time to take a listen. I'm happy to be here today.
Perfect, man. All right, so let's get started. So Shadow, what are some interesting developments that you've seen going on throughout the last couple of weeks? You know, we're seeing some liquidity enter the market. You know, some people say it's because of these airdrops, but you know, China has been doing some QE, and it's just kind of odd how that fits in to all these narratives, right? You have something going on in the background, and it's like, it's because of this, it's because of that, and
Yeah.
you know, now it's like dino coins back from the Chinese Ethereum killer era, right? You know, like Neo and a few other projects as well. Pretty interesting to see that. It's very interesting to see that.
Yeah. So I'll answer this as succinctly as I can, because obviously markets are prices are the residual aftermath of many different factors. So it's very difficult to say, okay, like, you know, what's going on, why are things happening here, and whatever. But some observations I can make is that I think last time we spoke, I was pretty clear on my contextual analysis of the markets. Basically, I was trying to put an exclamation point around the fact that good enough is good enough. And when good enough arrives, liquidity often flows into the market because risk to reward is risk to reward. So, for example, if you have a trade that is 15 risk to reward, or you can wait and it will be 13 risk reward. Sorry, other way around. If you have a trade that's 13 risk reward, or you can wait 6 months and the probability of being filled reduces by 50%. For 15 risk reward, you're likely to take the former, right? Because it's only a risk reward sacrifice. So that I saw the market was generally in that region I'll say around 4 months ago now. So that's the first thing. We talked about game theory a lot last time I was here, and that's probably the first thing. Yeah, is when big money really spots an opportunity, they're going to take it. Yeah, they're going to take it. Second is just simply because recently, if we're looking at recent price action, obviously China have done QE. I think global liquidity is increasing as a result. You have, I haven't looked into the verification of how deep that goes, but obviously Hong Kong appears to be allowing crypto trading again with certain assets. So that's very bullish, but that's only come out recently, right? We've had a massive rally prior to that. And I just think it's just a cycle repeating again. Third thing we have, so the first two factors were game theory. Second was this thing with China. But the third thing is that BTC was clearly diverging from the NASDAQ. That's another observation that's favorable for us right now in crypto. It was the correlation to the NASDAQ was weakening locally, and it does that periodically. But once the NASDAQ failed to sell off below the COVID low, so there was a pump that started when quantitative easing came in during the stimulus pump. There was a low formed just below that. We reached that low again, and we couldn't sell off below it. And I think that the absence of volatility in the NASDAQ has somewhat allowed crypto to start its engines, which is perhaps a bit I don't know, less instinctual for people to understand, but that's how I was seeing things. So yeah, and I think Nasdaq is ranging at the moment, and so crypto is really just benefiting from that short-term slow in volatility, whatever the macro may be. Right? We have two sides that are saying that. One side is saying that people are overestimating that the macro is fucked and we're going to make new highs. Others are saying that we're in for a 50% drawdown. Yeah, that's fine. But I think as long as volatility is low there, we're going to be all right. Or if volatility is moving up, and there is a debate about whether the NASDAQ is still technically, well, it is still technically ranging, but there's a debate whether we're going higher due to break in market structure. So, yeah, those were probably the three most important observations for me lately. And then we have liquidity flowing into the different narratives in the market at the moment, such as obviously DeFi, LSD, Chinese coins. We and you were discussing the Arbitrum stuff earlier on. We have certain gaming coins that have run, such as Illuvium. So a lot of the first runners this midterm cycle have been gaming coins, and yeah, Illuvium was one of the first to move. So the narratives are fairly spread out at the moment. I was talking with a few lads that I trade with on a daily basis, and we were scratching our heads because liquidity was moving, for me at least, in a very strange way a few months ago. So yeah, those are the four observations I have for you right now.
Man, I'd love to talk about some Illuvium. If you'd want to expand on that, I saw that like the NFTs that they're doing are more like 3D rendered and things like that, and it reminds me a lot of what's going on currently right now with like the Web2 gaming sector, right? Like a lot of the gaming skins and like collectibles, and I know in certain parts across Asia, people actually like they actually trade save files with one another as far as like downloadable content, skins, and mods and things like that. And I was wondering, back in the space that I did a couple of days ago, what if we can bring in a use case for NFTs as far as like progress within a game, right? But I know that actually is driven towards more like cloud services, right? Maybe something like Ocean Protocol. But if we can center that around an NFT, right, like a custom NFT where it just generates your data and it's derived off of an NFT, I think that would be pretty cool, right? So imagine like I'm playing something like GTA, right? And or Elden Ring, more specifically something like Elden Ring. I think this would be a better use case. um, with Elden Ring, there's a few gaming mods, right? And you're able to play the game in a completely different manner, really like hack and slash, Devil May Cry, really high octane sort of style, right? What if we were able to put that mod onto an NFT, right? And it saves your data, saves your skins, and all of that. And it's like this is Shadow's mod, this is Wabi's mod, and you can monetize it within a marketplace and you know profit off of it. Of course, that's one aspect where creators can sort of make a living off of that. Like I think things like gaming mods and customary skins, that users can create. I think the possibilities are really endless, and you're now starting to see the rapid development and scalability from a lot of these quote unquote Web3 games, right? You have things like Illuvium, you have Mechaverse, and of course you have what the guys over at Katana are building. And after almost 6 years, right, since Decentraland came out, we're actually having games that you're not able to tell the difference of what sort of tech stack they're using, right? And would love to know your thoughts on that. Like perhaps we can add on to this ecosystem with NFTs, as far as what I just described goes. What are your thoughts on it?
Honestly, that's the first time I've come across the idea of, at least you mentioned the word save file, right? Having an NFT either linked to a mod or a save file or your personal progress. That is something that, now you've said it, I'm going to be on the watch out for that, because I don't think that has the and necessarily will skyrocket the price of an NFT myself, but I think it will skyrocket the price of an ecosystem. So let's just give Illuvium, for example. And Illuvium, I don't know much about the NFT system they've released. I was trying to research it the other day, but I didn't quite understand and didn't have enough time. But yeah, I think a project that's able to do that, where, for example, if you make significant progress in the game, your NFT morphs according to the progress you make, and perhaps even accrues value. That will forget about the value part of it. Yeah, just if it morphs according to your achievements, that I think that will offer significant clout because it's automatic, right? You don't have to do much, and you're rewarded for progress in a way that's a bit more sneaky, right? And I think that will benefit an ecosystem more because it will just attract more players. So that's yeah, I think that's a solid idea to watch out for. And I think what was the other thing you were mentioning? You mentioned something else about you talked about a breadth of projects, and you talked about
Mods.
it's been 6 years.
Yeah,
Yeah. What, so
mods.
with mods, was the idea similar to what I just extrapolated, or what was
Yeah.
the idea
So
again for mods?
so for mods, I was giving an example like Elden Ring, right? A lot of
Yeah.
individuals from CT, they love games like Elden Ring, Bloodborne, Demon Souls, right? Like with those games, of course, you have different styles of playing the game, right? You can be like more like magic based, you can be more like shoot like archer based,
Hmm.
things like that. But there are mods. Like if you go on TikTok, you just look
Yeah.
up, Elden Ring mods, and there's just one mod that's just absolutely sick, and it allows you to play the game as if it were Devil May Cry.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. 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 I've seen
yeah,
that.
yeah. So my idea was, what if we can like timestamp those mods, right, and roll it out as a new feature of the game via NFTs? Because you're not gonna have this rolled out into Web 2 just yet, right?
Hmm.
That sector is slowly embracing NFTs, like what we just saw with Square Enix, right? For those of you who don't
I've
know,
seen that.
yeah, yeah. For those in the audience that don't know who Square Enix is, they're one of the largest publishers and gaming companies in the gaming sector right now, and they have been for over 20 years. And they did things like Final Fantasy. They have connections to Disney via Kingdom Hearts, and so within the last like week or so, they announced that they're going to be rolling out some NFTs via like their Final Fantasy franchise. And if you take a look at their sales numbers, that essentially is a siren, or rather an echo for what's to come. And an example that I can give of, the last time this happened, right, would honestly be, I would say, like Q4 of 2020, when PayPal announced that you were able to buy a select few cryptocurrencies, right? And I think it's going to start off with NFTs, right? Because those are going to be the things that are more easy accessible to your everyday user, right? And we have to remember that a lot of the new users that came into Web3 actually came in via NFT marketplaces with their debit card, right? Um, and then through NFTs, they discovered things like Ethereum, Avalanche, Solana, and what have you. And so that's basically like my general idea, Shadow, how custom made content, right, within Web 2, right, like gaming and stuff like that, that would translate over a migration from Web 2 to Web 3. So if you're a content creator in Twitch, right, like you're streaming your mod and all that stuff, like it would be pretty cool if, say, like, a NFT protocol that focuses around like game streaming and stuff. Maybe I think that would be like Theta, right? Um,
Yeah.
and there would be a feature within that protocol where it incentivizes content creators to market themselves as a brand, right? So it's like, right, here's Shadow's collection, right, his like customary NFTs that allow you to play Illuvium,
You've
right?
cut out, brother. I don't know if you're still listening to this.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me?
I think Wabby's gone. We'll just wait till he gets back.
Can you guys hear me now? Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, you're back. Yeah, you're back. I can hear you
Okay,
now.
okay, okay. So what I was saying is like just envision a platform where imagine a new platform, an existing platform that adds a feature where you're able to monetize the content that you have like within Web 2 and monetize that into Web 3, right? So Shadow decides, hey, I have an idea to make a first person Elden Ring, right? You monetize that mod, and then people are able to take that NFT, right? And then, use that as a pass to access the game in a certain aspect that has never been explored before, right? Because as you know, like what makes a game is the gameplay, right? And gameplay is everything. And platforms should not be focused on, all right, if I'm building on Avalanche, how do I make more people go from Ethereum to Avalanche? It should be, how can I build something on Avalanche or whatever other blockchain protocol, and add in more users as a whole within Web3 and crypto, and not so much like trying to play these games of rotation. And I think that's what things like Illuvium are doing. You take a look at Illuvium Overworld. It's this nice looking game, open world, and it's just games on top of games on top of games, and they're constantly expanding the lore and things of that nature. And it's really beautiful to see that, like, there were a handful of games that made it through the crisis that was 2022. And I think people forget how bad 2022 was. One pump and it's like, 2022 never happened. And yeah.
It's pretty nuts. Pretty nuts. The idea about using NFT for various features like mods and stuff. It's obviously viable. With mods, I don't know how it would work. I mean, it's a great idea for a Web3 game, perhaps. But the problem is I don't know how that would be able to scale the price of the NFT, or the project itself with clout passes, or for example, what you said, the PFPs that perhaps auto update due to progress, like save files. Absolutely, but the second one, I wouldn't know quite yet. I'd have to think about it. That also brings out an important question. We've got to play devil's advocate here. When I put myself in the shoes of a Web 2 gamer, right? Web 2 gamers are not necessarily all very rich. They're much younger, and they look at, when they get a pop up on the screen, or when they go onto a website and it says purchase now, they're just like, fuck off, right? So I've been playing devil's advocate lately, and I've started to realize on talk I had with a call with someone recently. They said to me that web gamers don't want to buy a token, or they don't want to buy an NFT. They don't want to, even if these are the kinds of people that walk into a store and buy a game. There's considerable amount of work to do to get these guys involved in quote unquote Web3, which is just the monetization of games and the evaluation of games through a different means, of course, with the incorporation of ownership and in-game assets. So I've started to look at games in really two different baskets, given the climate that we're in right now. Really, the heading over all of them is that crypto is a bubble. So the things that we talk about are usually not worth the valuations that they have, but we play the game while we're here, right? But within that, there are two different areas for gaming that I'm coming to understand. One is games that are seriously focusing on development first, and really not just saying they're kind of trying to get traditional gamers in, but they're building games that traditional gamers would want to play, number one. And the second is, or are games that are also building games that people want to play, but they're more focused on Web3, even if they say they're focused on Web 2, yeah, just by looking at their websites, their vision, and the way they're marketing themselves. So that's an interesting split. And I think the more parabolic ones are going to be the ones that, really attune to the gameplay aspect of things. Of course, this is not me saying that games are not focusing on gameplay, but I mean for Web 2 guys, yeah, that are able to stealthily, in a very skillful manner, implement the NFT systems and tokens into their game. And I've been looking for evidence that projects are doing that. Illuvium perhaps has a good standing to do that, and is in the running to do that, simply because the game is so beautiful. They've really smashed at least the initial magnetism of the game. It's working smoothly. It has the collectible idea to it. It's very easy to run, not run, sorry, to play. There's a lot of things that they can do to expand on it. And from a gaming aspect, they've really smashed it out of the park. And I think that's why it was one of the first movers. So I'm really looking for games that are easy to access, easy to play, and that Web2 gamers will just be addicted to anyway, right? Because through that, investors are likely to pile their capital into things that have weekly gamers. So, imagine you have two games, yeah, and you're trying to invest in one via crypto, and you're looking at the other two, and you're trying to figure out a criteria. One of them has 750,000 weekly active gamers. The other has 10,000, right? It's pretty clear where you're going to put your money, even if the ecosystem isn't smashing it yet, right? It's pretty clear where you're going to drop your cash. In that also, we also have the truth that a lot of people are allocating their capital this cycle and all the cycles are people that are either traditionally in finance or traditionally in crypto. Yeah, two different words. But the people with money they don't understand too much the Web2 aspect of it. It's because they're so enamored with Web3, right? So the interplay between the two sectors is very interesting, and it's causing me to just split games into a couple of assets. Now, the ones that are not strictly focused on getting all the Web2 gamers they can, and are clearly just focused on building a hype project or building a gaming project that's solid, but they don't have the right angle. Those are going to be shorter term flips for me. And then the projects that are really trying to cement their feet into the natural gameplay world, then perhaps I'll hold those a bit longer. But yeah, those are the two things, and that's extra comments on Illuvium there too.
Yeah, man, we can follow that up with what's going on with Floki, right, and their upgradable NFTs. And I really like what they're building with their Flokify and what they're doing with Valhalla. And basically, like, they have some pretty cool on-chain gaming mechanics and with upgradable NFTs, and they're basically centering around the actual game having a playability effect and replayability effect. That's the most important thing. Not only onboarding users because the game is fun, but also keeping a lot of that social capital within its ecosystem. And what I find pretty cool about what they're trying to do with quote unquote Flokify is that it's the only crypto locker protocol that implements the ERC 1155 standard, and also it allows the batch locking of NFTs. So essentially, like, it incentivizes you to keep playing within the ecosystem and having, like, some pretty cool perks, right? Like, imagine the idea of becoming part of, like, their top 5 ranking within the game or top 100, what have you, and you'll be able to have, like, some alpha drops where you can see what's going on with a new batch of NFTs that'll give you perks within the game. And imagine being able to, like, reserve an NFT, right? So sort of like reserving a game at GameStop or whatever gaming retailer of your choice. Instead of imagining, putting a deposit down for reserving a game, imagine putting in a deposit for a specific PFP within a collection. And the incentive behind this, right, is I want you as a user to use to use the time that you have readily available to you to come into my ecosystem and become an integral part of it. And I'll reward you by giving you these alpha drops and allowing you to reserve a specific PFP. And I think that's a way where we can kind of mitigate the gas wars, right? With a lot of these with a lot of these NFTs going on in Ethereum, right? Even with airdrops, right? Like with the Blur airdrop, like right when things were getting hot, it was like $400 $500 in gas fees, for a couple of minutes there. And I think with these things we can kind of mitigate the situation where, if there's a lot of activity within the Ethereum network, right, like base layer Ethereum, because not everything is just going to be ported onto Arbitrum. I think it's little things like that that would incentivize users to use these ecosystems. And like we're approaching a point where it's like, yeah, it's called, Floki Inu, right? Or whatever Inu. But if you take a look at what the ecosystem is doing, as far as like, what they're building out to reward users and also the replayability effect and the reward system mechanics, I think I think we have something cool going on here throughout Web3, and it's not to say that like, oh, this is going to be the one that's going to 1,000x, right? This is going to be like the game changing protocol, but it's more along the lines of like this is going to set a standard, right? Like when you look at Illuvium, right, from a quality perspective and its build, it's going to set a standard where it's like, all right, I can't just, make an Angry Birds um, on the blockchain, right? I have to do something that is well thought out and treat it as if it were a AAA game, or at least use as many resources as possible where it doesn't just look like a copy pasta game. You know what I mean?
I'm pretty much in agreement with most of the stuff you said there. It's definitely doing something to keep an eye on, and I agree with all the stuff that you said about getting people over to perhaps mitigate some of the gas wars. Floki is a project. It's a very interesting project because obviously it began as a meme coin, but they've just constantly been expanding out and out into various different things. Obviously the game that they have or that's in beta, the Floki-Fi, I think they have a DeFi protocol, just the incessant marketing, the relevancy, the fact that they are also seen as a meme coin, so they gather the liquidity from that side of the equation too, and obviously because people, I think the reason why it just went absolutely bananas recently is obviously because of the trend. Yeah, fair enough, but people seem to be choosing this coin on the Elon tweets this time, which is very interesting. I know I'm slightly veering off what you were talking about. But yeah, the second Elon tweeted about his dog, that shit went parabolic, and then they had a listing on KuCoin and stuff. So I really think that Floki is something to really intensely watch this cycle, because we've had the Doge cycle, we've had the Shiba cycle. I think Floki is probably going to have it this time. There are a few others to watch, but that's in a stone.
Shadow, you cut off there for a minute, brother.
Where did
Oh, you're good. You're good. You're good now.
Okay.
You're good.
All right. Yeah, I was just saying that I'm very impressed with what Floki are doing, and since we've had the Doge and the Shiba cycles, people are probably going to be looking at this one, especially because it's now reacting to Elon's tweets more than anything else is, right? He tweeted about that dog, and it was Floki was the one that took the liquidity, and that was very interesting. So I was about
Yeah,
to
and they're
mention the
also
monthly outlooks there too, but we can keep that for later.
Yeah, and they're also building again like Floki-Fi, and one thing that I was mentioning over the summer, like it was sort of like a left curve approach, or easy mode, as I call it, and that's Doggy Coin DeFi, right? Things like Shibarium, and I think like with Floki, given the fact that like there's still sort of that cult following, again with what they're doing with like their NFT lockers and like their alpha drops as far as like their upgradable NFTs are concerned. I think they can honestly set a standard when it comes to that, and of course from a gameplay aspect, it's one of those that a lot of people have their eyes on, and it sets a path for things like Katana to really compound on that social capital and on that momentum, because with all these developments going on, excuse me, momentum within the development cycle is really important, and it got pretty quiet on the development side of things within the industry in Q4, right? But it's great to see that like a lot of progress is being made on gaming as a whole. And yeah, man, I'm absolutely ecstatic to see the things that are going to be rolled out leading towards the summertime. And I see, we're just above that 30-minute mark, so we'll be taking some questions. If anybody in the audience wants to come up, ask some questions to Shadow or myself, or give any statements, feel free to do so. Just click that request button on the bottom left corner, and I'll bring you right up. My name is Wabi. I host these spaces throughout the week. And if you enjoy this content, feel free to follow us here at Because Bitcoin and turn on bell notifications so that you're made aware of when these spaces go live. And also, 5 to 10 minutes after the space is concluded, it will be uploaded onto our YouTube channel, and Shadow is running on limited time. We have about 5 to 10 minutes left. So, with that being said, if any of you want to come up and ask questions, now is the time to do it. Click that request button on the bottom left corner, and I'll bring you right up. See, we have one request. Let's bring them up. Average Dad. Average Dad, what's going on, brother? Average Dad, you there?
Oh, I'm here, Wabi. How are you, brother?
What's going on, man? Doing good.
Hey, man, just a couple questions for you, if you don't mind. Probably one you covered before, but just one I'm looking into recently with Rollbit. Kind of where you see that one going, and then also just curious what your thoughts are on Phantom in general. Seems to have done well lately, and it's one I personally like to kind of go in and play around with. And I'm pretty much inexperienced in crypto, so find it pretty easy to use. I'll go ahead and step off here and let you take that answer.
Yeah, no problem, man. I'll give it over to Shadow first. I want to know his thoughts on it, given that he's our guest for the day. Shadow, go ahead, man.
Yeah, so I can answer some of that specifically. So Rollbit's solid, man. I mean, I'll say that from a user perspective, from a branding perspective, and just from a social standing perspective. But I don't say that from the perspective of having looked into the financials of the project and understand the viability of the exchange. But Rollbit seems like a solid project, really, because there hasn't been a gambling, I would say, crypto website and really a place for liquidity to go to gamble at big size that has really, to me, looked viable. Yeah, there's been stuff on the Tron network, and there's been gambling stuff pop up here and there. Even on last cycle, we had that game called D-Race, and there are some gambling protocols, but there's been nothing that I've seen that has taken the what's it called, the potential for branding a gambling space properly. Rollbit has that. So if the financials of the project and the morals and everything is in order with their company, I think that's going to the absolute moon. Like, even from where it is right now, I knew about that from 10 million and market cap, and I said, as soon as I said, this is, if everything stays in status quo here, this is going a lot higher. It will only go higher, obviously, if the general crypto market does. It's gonna take a hit otherwise. But we don't have an exchange that is, like that. That's the first perhaps major exchange that can do the sport betting stuff. So I think Rollbit's very good, and I think if you're looking to trade, it's very difficult to say buy things when they're up, but if we ever get a significant pullback back and the company itself checks out, then yeah, there's a lot of hype there as well. I said about the social sentiment. The majority of influencers are using it, and it seems as if it's holding the liquidity fairly well, and it's able to bear the liquidity well. So that's my thoughts on that. On Phantom, I don't have fundamental thoughts for you. Sorry, I'd have to give that over to Wabi. But what I will say is that because Phantom was, again, one of the first movers in this midterm cycle, capital votes how it votes, yeah? So if money is interested in moving that first, there's a reason for it. So it has my interest also, but only particularly because it's the first place capital rushed into. But I'll leave that question for Wabi, because I'm not an expert on Phantom, and I don't use it either. So.
Yeah, with Phantom, if you look back on their tweets, they actually did like a soft rebrand as like a GameFi token. It's going to be an ecosystem that is going to facilitate a lot of that activity, and so you'll see that with a lot of like their treasury and their runway, they're basically going to be solvent for the next like 10 years if they keep up the good work, right? But their outlook is basically like well over 10 years. I think it's a couple of decades as far as their runway is concerned. And so they're using a lot of those funds to incubate products within the ecosystem, again, to facilitate things like GameFi and Metaverse, which is going to be the primary driver for onboarding new users onto Web3. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. And as far as my thoughts on Rollbit, it's exactly what Shadow said, and it kind of gives some validity to Solana. Soft rebranding as a sort of Binance Smart Chain, right? And we already have two examples. We have Bonk, and now we have Rollbit, right? And um, those are really my thoughts on the whole thing. So yeah.
Thanks, Wabi. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, no problem. Shadow, I know you mentioned something about like monthly structures and all those things that you wanted to cover before we wrap up this space.
Yeah. It's just I just wanted to say, additionally, leading on to what we were talking about before, that crypto is in a very important spot right now. So, of course, everyone knows if you're watching the charts where BTC is and and mostly where the traditional markets are. But if you simplify everything in the moment, yeah, if we've got 10 or so days before 9 days before we're confronted with the monthly close. If the if our month closes anywhere near where we're at, or preferably a little bit higher, we have significant monthly breakouts across the board in crypto, and that's going to signify the green light for a lot of capital exposure, especially on a local discount. So if we get those monthly closes and then we get some kind of panic or dip, that's probably one of the best opportunities we've seen in the past 3 years to buy any crypto assets, especially ones that have just broken out of their monthly structures. Yeah. So one thing I'll say to you guys is if you're looking to simplify things off the back of having so much information to figure out, and really perhaps you're feeling like you've missed out, just scroll out to the monthly, guys. Yeah. Scroll out to the monthly chart. It's very simple. And we don't have long until that closes, right? It's not like we have to wait 2 or 3 months to find that out. No, we only have 10 more days. And if we get breakouts across the board, the outlook for 6 months down the line is pretty good. So just keep an eye on that. That's all I'd say.
Perfect, man. Perfect. So I think that about wraps it up here. I know you said you only had about 45 minutes, so we're gonna be
I've
respectful.
got another 5 minutes in case anyone wants to ask any of the questions.
Yeah, man. Yeah. If anyone wants to come up, feel free, and we'll bring you right up. And just as a reminder, my name is Wabi. I host these spaces throughout the week. So if you like this crypto specific content, feel free to follow us here because Bitcoin. Turn on bell notifications so you can be made aware of when we do go live. And yeah, if anyone wants to come up, now's the time. What's going on, DC?
Hey, what's going on, Wabi? Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good. You're good, brother.
All right, for sure. Well, I've been following Shadow for a while now. Puts out a lot of great content. And I know you too, focus a lot on.
I don't know if DC is trying to speak, but I can't hear anything from his side.
DC, drop as a speaker, or leave the space and come back. Leave the space and come back, and then request to speak again.
Okay, all right, for sure.
Well, so Wabi, you mentioned Katana earlier on, and it's I agree with the comment you made on social capital. I've been pretty much transparent about my thoughts on the project. And it's the same as quite a few other projects. You said that in Q4, a lot of them went silent. And I think that was probably another marker of just the general depression. I mean, we're all humans, so a lot of the projects went quiet. But really, the ones that are able to, sink their teeth, spend some of their runway during the bear market, maybe perhaps because some of them are not TA experts, they thought, well, shit, crypto's still not coming back. They still sunk their development costs into, the game, and some people did not. And that's a very good point that you made. It has become a little bit of a meme saying, oh, one of the criteria is building through the bear market, but it's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. And this project I like, especially because they are in a very good place to absorb a lot of that social capital. Especially they have something to show for it right now. So I'll leave it to DC. I think he wanted to ask a question.
Hey, Shadow, can you hear me now?
Yep, everything is good.
All right, perfect. No, I was saying earlier that, I've been following your content for a while, and I mean, you put out a lot of great content, so I appreciate that.
Thank you, sir.
Yep. So I was gonna ask a question. I know you two are very experienced on the gaming. Have you guys looked at Shrapnel and Undead Blocks? Do you have any thoughts on just overall game, those two games, how they look, how they feel, not really from a crypto standpoint, just but obviously for gaming overall?
I can answer this first, and then we can go to Wabi. I haven't looked into Shrapnel, brother. I came across that. I think is it the FPS game? Is it the shooting game?
Yes, yeah, it is.
Yeah. I think I came across it last week on my research. It might be on my list still. I don't have any thoughts about it right now, bro. Either of them. But I'm just gonna put a note to that to look at it again if I missed it, because I always any recommendation or name I hear, I always look it up pretty much immediately. So I will share my thoughts on it if there's something significant there. Shortly, I'll go off and look at that. But no, I don't have any thoughts right now on that, bro. Sorry about that, but Wabi might have some thoughts. I don't know if you've seen the project.
I have not, unfortunately. I have not. I'm not currently able to have my attention on dozens of projects at once. I can only look at a select few. But I'll go back to the products that you mentioned, and on a later space, potentially, like if you come back on, DC, I'll address your question, or I'll just DM you with my thoughts after I implement some thorough due diligence on them.
Yeah, no, no, I appreciate it. I appreciate it because like Shadow and yourself said, Wobby, I think the product, the companies that are gonna do very good are the ones that are focused on the gaming itself, right?
1,000%.
Instead of focusing on the crypto side, and you can see it a lot. Obviously, I know Shadow is big on was there, big on Kata, and those are two projects that I'm invested in, and and I like that about them, right? That they really focus on the gaming experience instead of talking a lot of price action, which is obviously a healthy sign of long term, healthy ecosystem, right?
Yeah, I got to agree with that. And I'm thinking about this shrapnel because it's ringing a bell in my mind. I think it was one of those high graphic projects. I'm looking at the Twitter now, and it says the first AAA customizable FPS game. So I think I did see that. But if it's decent, I'll share my thoughts on the profile. But back to what you said, bro. I have to agree. We've got to look at those projects that at least initially feel viable to play. Yeah. We have, our capital. We don't want to be too late in plays, and we don't want to be too early. But certainly, the ones that look viable are definitely ones we want to be committing to. There are also there is some absolute garbage out there too, man. There is some absolute garbage, and it's pretty high market cap too. So I'm not sure all of them will smash up. I just want to focus on the ones that are that are building something quality, you know. So I agree with you there.
All right. With that being said, I think now is a good time to wrap up. We're just about to hit that hour mark, which is a bit over your time, Shadow. So I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to come in and join us and catch up and yeah, just talk some general shop. Everyone, feel free to follow Shadow. Look forward to having him on the show over the coming months, and as well as some other members within the network as well. Feel free to follow him, guys. He also has a YouTube channel as well. We did host a space with him about 2 months ago. I believe it's the December 30th episode of Crypto World Radio, and you guys can hear like his origin story and all that stuff. And I find it pretty cool that he comes from like a monk based background and really passionate individual when he gets into the flow of things. And again, you'll be able to catch this space in about 5 to 10 minutes after the space is shut down. I want to thank our producer for streaming the show and all that stuff, and also to our also to our audience for participating for today's Crypto World Radio show. So, with that being said, thank you all so much. Thank you, Shadow, so much as well. And take care. We'll be back tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. As far as Crypto World Radio goes, we'll be hosting Garlem One from Momentum 6. And yeah, and also look forward to a exciting announcement coming up for Crypto World Radio. We're going to be having a pretty cool announcement for Wednesday, so think of this as an announcement of an announcement. But yeah, all right, guys, take care. Good night.
Yeah, thank you. Hey, thank you for hosting me today, man. Enjoyed it once again. Thank you for the kind words, and thank you for everyone that has spent their finite time to come in and just listen and just chill out here. Yeah, I appreciate the attention, and God bless.
The trading current is just math. It's just math. It has a 95.45% hit rate when we deviate outside of CP2 and CN2. All you had to do is recognize that 95% of the time when we get over here, under this blue line, we get some sort of mean reversion. So let's just assume you long right here. 95 out of 100 times, when I buy this, I'm gonna get some sort of bounce. It's just math. Look what would have happened as we move up. Look at the bounce that came after. And now look where we are. If you had just blindly followed the current, you take all emotions out of it, and you say, I'm going to trust the statisticians. You would have bought Dow Jones somewhere down here under 30,000. You know, depending on how you want to measure it from absolute top to bottom, 20% move. We also have multi-time frame alerts. You don't even have to be at your computer on TradingView. You can ping your phone. Now, the current has some really awesome features, and I would urge you guys to join our Discord to get access to it. We give it away for free as a tool to the community. It's just math. There's really no need to overcomplicate things, not even in the slightest.